Right now is a time in human history when humans are evolving. And I've said this before. Right? And most people think that evolution, it takes place over tens of thousands of years or even thousands of generations. Right now, in your lifetime, humanity is evolving. And what's important is right now, in March of 2016, a phylogenetic leap is happening, a biological evolutionary leap. And humans who have worked from their gut level reactions. You've heard people say, I know it in my guts. Right? I have a gut feeling about it. The guts have been the primary processing center for humans now. If you don't understand that, you're not a meta. But if you're a meta, you actually do process the energy primarily from the area behind your belly button, from your first mind. And right now, humanity is jumping one person at a time from the first mind up to the second mind. They are beginning to be centered in the heart and not centered in the guts. Now, I have watched this happening since just after the start of this year, people jumping from the guts up to the heart. And what happens is when you jump and begin to function from the heart, you cannot go back. You can never get back to processing from the guts. This is like a newborn infant trying to crawl back in the womb, or a butterfly trying to crawl back into its cocoon so it can be a caterpillar again. You cannot go back. This is a one-way process. And for those who've gone through it, you probably don't notice. You just notice that you're confused. Stuff that's always made sense doesn't anymore. You're probably bored. Things you've always enjoyed don't seem interesting anymore. You probably find you're reacting to more things than you're used to. You're crying more when something really touches you. It's like, wow, I don't get why I'm crying. Right? I've seen these cartoon sites where people share things. What is it, 9gag? And somebody will post something that isn't just silly. To quote the common language, it touches the heart. And all of the responses will be things like, did I cut onions? Why are my eyes leaking? Is there something wrong with me? Why is there water falling out of my eyes right now? This is something a lot of people are experiencing. And you probably won't notice the process of it happening. What you'll notice is the effects. Imagine being a child, small enough that when you look up at the kitchen counter, you can't tell what's on top of it. And then one day, one year, you toddle into the kitchen, you walk into the kitchen, and you look, and if you stand on your tiptoes, you can see on top of the counter. You can put your nose right on there and look at all the stuff on the counter. Right? In that moment, you don't say, my goodness, I have grown. I am a more mature entity. You're just excited because you can see the counter. Right? It's like that with the heart. You don't notice you've become a more mature entity. You don't notice you've reached a whole new stage of human evolution. You just start looking at things from this higher perspective. And a habit or a relationship or a job that's been right for you for years, suddenly you're bored with it. You're just not interested. You just don't care. Because while it was enough for your guts, your heart isn't touched by it. There's no life, no love, no passion. I'll point out that it's become an internet meme. For 25 years, I have been talking about the combined, conjoined power of love and light and life. And this, in the last year or two, has become an internet meme. People saying, oh, this is wonderful, this is love, this is life. And they don't know what it means, but they're saying this stuff. Right? This has become instinctive to you. Love and light and life. It's become instinctive. And the transition process is a little messy and a little difficult. But when you grow to a place where you're stable there, when you move in and start to be comfortable, imagine being in a grade school you've gone to your whole life, and suddenly, you graduate and go to a secondary school, and when you knew all the rooms and the classes and the teachers and the rules. Suddenly you're surrounded by people bigger than you and new classes that are harder and all kinds of interesting new things. At first it's really uncomfortable. But when you start exploring secondary school, many people find that they can learn new things, they meet new friends, they join the drama club or the music club or a sports team. And most people afterwards will say that their high school years really defined who they are in this lifetime, not their grade school years. Right? The heart is like that. You have grown comfortable living in your guts and having feelings and dealing with life from a gut feeling level. Now that you're in the heart, it's uncomfortable, it's scary, it's weird. But from here, you are going to find new and amazing things, and this is going to define who you are for the rest of your life. Now, I've said these things before. If you haven't heard it, well, find some other recordings, because that's not what I'm here to tell you about. I'm here to talk about light and shadow. For anybody who doesn't know what those are, think of loosely, mythologically, the light and dark side of the Force. The one that stands for freedom and experience and growth, and the other that stands for slavery and compression and making people less and keeping them afraid. Loosely speaking, this is the light versus the shadow. It's not good and evil. That's good is whatever the church tells you to do, and evil is whatever the church says don't do. Right? There was a time if you didn't eat fish on Friday, you were evil. This isn't about fish. That which is light comes from joy and causes you to expand and open and become more curious and more caring and more involved in your life and your people and your pets and your family and everything. That which comes from shadow makes you shut down and become more bored, more scared, more frustrated, more angry, more lost. It causes you day after day to be smaller and smaller and smaller. That which comes from light causes you to open and grow and explore. This for me is a simple definition of light v shadow. Right? Now, the reason I'm introduced this by talking about the phylogenetic shift, the jump from the guts to the heart, from the first mind to the second mind, is that while you have lived in the guts, you could do light things and you could do shadow things. You might hug your children and say, I love you, and then 10 minutes later flip somebody off in traffic or yell at an employer. You might have a wonderful experience that causes you to feel more alive and immediately follow it by something nasty that causes everybody to feel smaller. And in the guts this was possible because both light and shadow can function in the guts. And long term, those who are choosing shadow in their guts, they're growing weaker, they're growing sicker, they're struggling in this lifetime. And those who are practicing light are becoming more and more. And I've talked about this extensively. Right? But as you make this jump to the heart, and you don't get a choice, every single human being is making this jump to the heart. And the more people around you who have made this jump, they develop a kind of gravity that's pulling you up, and you will not be able to fight it. Every human being will make this jump to the heart. Most of you this year. There are a few who will struggle a bit longer. But everyone will make this jump. And the heart cannot process shadow. It simply does not. When you are bringing shadow energy in or expressing shadow or living in shadow, the heart kind of shuts down and curls up, and you live this dark, twisted life. But you cannot escape from the heart back to the guts now. You can no longer be functional and effective in this world living in shadow. Every time you do something, whether it's stealing something from somebody or cheating on your taxes or lying to your spouse or manipulating your children or taking advantage of your work, your employees, your employer, these things, while they were acceptable in the guts, things that wouldn't have harmed you, from the heart these things cause you serious harm. As you begin to, whether you want to or not, identify with the heart and process with the heart, anything you do, a movie you watch, something violent, zombies, horror things, a book you read, a television show, a game you play, even small things, when they have this ugliness in it, it's going to harm you. It's going to make you nauseous increasingly. You're going to feel bored, frustrated, angry, impatient, lost, confused. And it's important that you feel these things, because if you didn't feel these things, you might keep doing this. And this is strangling your heart. This won't just make you sick as a person of the second mind. Practicing the shadow here will kill you. It will end your life. It will make you weaker and sicker and lonelier and more frustrated and more disgusted, until eventually you run out of energy and you die. The heart will not tolerate the shadow. And I've talked about the guts and the shadow before, and how your world is shifting, and increasingly those who are doing the light are going to seem more attractive, and those doing the shadow, they're going to be more ugly, like the Emperor in Star Wars, or Darth Vader behind his mask. Right? Those who are doing the shadow and the guts, they're going to be growing weaker and sicker and having health trouble, and it's going to speed up. But you've got years yet before that would be a serious threat to your health. Now that humans are making this astounding jump, not over decades, but in the matter of half a year, most of humanity is jumping from the guts to the heart. Now that you're doing this, these habits of shadow are going to harm you in ways you can't imagine. You're going to find yourself getting sick with diseases the doctors can't diagnose. Randomly running a fever every time you're angry. Getting blinding pain in your eyes every time you try to look at a computer that has violence or ugliness in it. Your mind twisting in knots and getting a terrible headache every time you start thinking about how to do things, to, even if you're just a business person and you're trying to take advantage of another company, because this is what business does. Business is inherently vampiric. Every time you try and do these things, they're going to have a stronger and stronger effect. And you have a choice at this point. You can start paying attention and realize that these things feel wrong to you. And that standing up for people and helping people and caring about people, whether you've been a selfish asshole your whole life, it doesn't matter. These things are going to start to feel right for you. And when you practice them, you're going to feel amazing and wonderful. And when you practice the anger, the frustration, the self-criticism, the criticism of others, these things are going to make you feel terrible. Again, I've said this before, but in the guts you would have had years of growing old and sick before it finally killed you. Now that people are increasingly functioning from the heart, it's going to be happening faster and faster and faster. And so if you have been sick more than you're used to this year, lung infections, coughing, earaches, eye trouble, nausea, digestive trouble, if you've been getting migraines you've never had before, if you've gotten sick and gone to the doctor and the doctor has said, well, this is interesting, or I haven't seen this before, you're probably one of these people. You've probably made this jump to the heart and you don't realize it, and things that used to be good for you aren't anymore. Things that used to be, yeah, it was okay to watch a horror movie. Maybe you like horror. It was okay to be critical or abusive to someone, or to criticize yourself. A lot of people love criticizing themselves. It might have been okay in the past for you to do these things. Now doing these things will hit you harder than you've ever imagined. Now is the time to begin to look inside. Right? Now understand, I'm not asking anybody to change. If this were, you used to follow those rules, and now you have to follow these rules or something's going to kill you, that would be a very shadow thing. Right? The point in this is not to change. The point in this is to grow, to learn, to expand, to become more aware. So what I encourage everybody to do, if you are experiencing any of these things, or if you see anyone else experiencing any of these things, I encourage you to begin practicing awareness. Stop once in a while. Try and listen to your feelings. Listen to what your heart's telling you. If there's a television show or a movie or a game or a way of treating a family member or a lover, anything that you've done for a long time, but when you do it, it seems wrong, stop it. In that second, pause it and walk away. And go sit down by yourself for just 2 or 3 minutes. 10 minutes for those who have enough stamina to sit still for that long. It's not difficult. Right? Go into the restroom, the toilet, and close the door. People don't bother you for 10 minutes. And just pay attention. Notice that what you are doing isn't right for you anymore. Notice that it's making you uncomfortable. And I don't want to give anybody rules about how to behave. I don't want to tell anybody what's right or wrong. I want to encourage you to notice and then tell you that as you notice, this thing I've never done, it suddenly feels interesting. Explore it. This thing that I've often done, it makes me sad. It makes me want to cry. It makes me hopeless and want to kill myself. Stop doing it, right? Or at least question it and notice what about it is causing you trouble, right? Use this time, this moment right now in March of 2016, when your entire species is jumping from a first mind species to a heart-centered, a second mind species. In this time, search for awareness, pay attention. And as you start to feel a desire to give up some things, give them up, take a break. You can always go back if they feel right later. And when you feel a desire to explore new things, let yourself explore. Use this as a time to increase your awareness. And if you want rules, I have one, and that is be kind to one another. So I'll close this by saying, love yourself, love one another. Be kind to everybody and everything in your world because it feels so amazing to do so. And have fun, play well together.